We're going to create the rocker arm spring, and we're going to use Inventor 2013 to create the model in sheet metal. And that way we can lay out a flat pattern if they wanted to make the flat pattern on the drawing so it's easier to manufacture. So I'm going to go to Inventor here, bring this over so that I can look at that. I'm going to make sure that I'm in the correct project first, and I'm usually not. So I'm going to go to that. And now I'm going to create a new part. And I'm going to start with a sheet metal part. Now you can always start with a regular part and convert to sheet metal. So you guys want to see that way first? Let's start with a regular part. Okay, so all you have to do in a sketch of sheet metal is that you want to make sure that you are just sketching the profile. Essentially, you're going to start with a contour. You're going to give it a default thickness. So if I'm going to go ahead and say finish here. Let's start a new part in sheet metal, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Because if you forgot and you started it in regular Inventor, then that's fine. But you have to remember that it has to be kind of an open profile, and it's going to give it a thickness. So you don't draw the entire boundary. So if I started with this, I'm always going to project my geometry first. And I'm going to put a line in here that, let's go over here to the drawing and see what that's going to be. It's going to be all the way to the end. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to just kind of draw in a shape. And notice that I'm not letting these snap vertical. Because if you let that happen, then it's going to put that constraint on there, and it may not be that way. But I am going to let these be tangent. So I'm going to hit this button right here that shows constraints. And I know I have one tangency. I need another one here. So I'm going to put a tangency up here. Bent sheet metal is always tangent, unless it has a real reason to have a corner. Alright, if you're just bending around on it, it's always tangent. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put dimensions in here, and a hard thing to do is get a dimension from the outside. So I can say, I can't get that one, so I'll just put a construction line in here. Or I could have put a point right here. Let's put that point in there. And I know that that point is on that arc, but if I line it up horizontally here, and I make it coincident here, what's the deal? It doesn't know where this is because it doesn't know how long this is. So I'm going to go ahead and put this dimension in. And that is, always start with the longest dimensions first because it won't flip your sketches around. I'm going to put this radius in here. And I'm going to put this angle in here. And that's 7. Now this isn't supposed to be attached right here, so I'm going to select on this and I'm going to right click and delete that. Let's see, delete. So let me show all constraints. Make sure that I'm showing everything. Actually select on the box. Now I'm going to put this dimension in, and it comes from the back again. So I'm going to come from this point to this point, and that's what, 1.35. So that'll shrink that down. Now you can see that the point is located because it didn't know where it was side to side. So I can turn off all constraints right down here at this button. I have my sketch done, and I'm going to go ahead and say finish. Now one thing that's hard to see is that radius on the outside or the inside? Which side is the material on? So I'm going to bring this over here, maximize it, and let's zoom in. And then I'm going to move this over a little bit. I still can't tell if the radius is on the inside or the outside. This all looks like it's on the inside to me. Does it to you guys? From inside to inside? The angle is going to be the same inside to inside or outside to outside, isn't it? But I'll use that on the inside. So I'm going to make my material go to the outside of this part. Alright, I'm going to finish the sketch. And I'm in sheet metal, so I'm going to go to sheet metal defaults. So my thickness is not 0.12, so I'm going to edit that. When you're creating a sheet metal part, all your sheet metal thickness is going to be the same. So you're going to set up a rule for that. We're going to use 10 thousandths. Pardon me. And say done. Yes. The material, you can go in here and make it steel. Let's see what we would use. We don't want a high strength low alloy because that won't be, I would say I guess a mild steel, or we might use an alloy. Just go with a mild steel and say okay. Now I'm going to use a contour flange on this. So what I've done was I imagine this profile being the contour, and all it's going to do is add thickness and extrude it a certain depth. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to go to this view so that I can see which side it added material. Added material to the inside, so I'm going to flip it, and it knew how thick it was by my material rule, and now I need to say how deep does it go away from me, and I can flip that as well, or go symmetric, and I'll say it goes 0.281. And now, just like anything else, you can create a whole feature if you have two edges that you can create the whole feature from. But I'm going to create a sketch, so I'm going to select on the top of this and create a sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a point here, and it doesn't tell me that it's a certain distance from anywhere. So with the dimension 0.281 in the width, it has some tolerance. So no matter what that tolerance, I want that hole to be in the center. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to line this up horizontally, as if I were drawing a line horizontally through this from here to that little green dot, which is a midpoint. And now I'm going to dimension it from the end at 0.156, and now it's fully constrained. It knows it's always lined up here, so if this spring actually gets really wide, there won't be a driving dimension there that keeps it. This is always going to keep it in the middle. So it's kind of a nice way to put dimensions in a sketch. I'm going to go ahead and hit H for a hole before I even get out of the sketch and go to my isometric view. This hole diameter is going to be 144. And say OK. So that's how we do this in sheet metal. Now if I go back to my other part and I created that sketch, let me go back to this sketch. I'm going to file, save it as. Can you save a sketch? I can copy it from here. Nice. Control C. Edit sketch. Project geometry. Control V. Nice. I've never done that before. That's great. Alright, so now I've finished that sketch and I'm just in a regular part. I can hit this convert to sheet metal. It needs to have uniform thickness. Please set the proper thickness in the sheet metal styles to match your model. So sheet metal defaults. Once again, I'll change this to 0.01. And we can go to a mild steel and say OK. And now I can do my contour flange. I wonder why it didn't take that. I think when it went into that sketch it didn't take all my constraints. Let's see. It says it did. You think it's reading this?
No, the projected geometry.
This right here? Let me delete that. And let's see. That looked like an extra line, didn't it? Because here's my geometry. Huh. And that looks like an extra line. Wait. Undo. Select other. I don't know where that came from. Where's my dimension here? Okay, so I'll go ahead and say finish the sketch, and let's do that contour flange again. Now it's selecting it. So that's just one way that you can go back from a sheet metal into a solid part, but you won't have any kind of bend. You can't flatten it out. So do you guys know how to unbend something? Let's see if I can figure it out here. Go ahead and stop this. Zoom this. I couldn't unfold the other one because I didn't have any features. So let's. We have folds. We have an unfold. Now sometimes you want to put a hole like right here and you don't want it being skewed. So that's when you would unfold and then refold. Does that make any sense? Let me see. Create flat pattern. There's your part and there's your bend center. So it's pretty nice. And then, so notice that we're in a flat pattern here. Can I suppress it? Okay, there you go.